Good morning to you, and thank you for joining with me. I love that old story of the message that was sent from the front lines in wartime. Send reinforcements, we're going to advance. By the time the message had reached its destination, it had become send 3 and 4pence, we're going to a dance. Now, of course, that only makes sense to those of people who are old enough to remember pre-decimalisation. How often do we land in trouble because we have miscommunicated? Jesus was the great communicator. He told stories. You can tell them in a few minutes and the message is clear and the message is there. Paul also, I love that bit when he talks of love to the people in the great city of Corinth. And he says, in life you need faith, you need hope, but most of all, you need love. So straightforward. But how easy it is to get it wrong. I remember some years ago speaking to a family in my old hometown in Kilbarchan. They lost their mother and they talked about the happiness they had growing up. And they talked of the mishaps. And they talked of the love. And they talked of the laughter when maybe it had gone wrong. They actually told me one day when the ragman came by, just as one of the boys, or a couple of the boys were coming home from school. Now, the ragman was somebody that was always offering little gifts to the boys and girls if they could bring to him old clothes that were no longer in use. So their brother dashed in, he took off his school uniform and gave it to the ragman. And the ragman gave him a balloon and a lucky bag. His mother later on gave him a thick ear. They told of when their younger sister was born. Mum left her downstairs in the old Silver Cross pram. Anyway, 2 of the brothers come along and they unclipped the body, left the wain and went away with the wheels to build a bogie that could take them down the hills. But as a family they were incredibly happy. In the street where they lived at that time, there were other big families, and in the autumn they would go off to what was called the totty houking, digging up potatoes. Now, as well as providing a modest wage for a good day's work, the family would also let them take away as many totties and turnips they could carry. But that family that day talked consistently of happy times. And as I looked around, they hadn't much in material terms, but boy oh boy, they had love. Jesus often said to his friends, love one another as I have loved you. But he also brought hope. It was his calling card. He brought hope to the lepers who were exiled from family and friends. He brought hope to a paralysed man who was unable to care for his family. He brought hope to people who felt worthless, lost, broken, rejected and beyond saving. He brought hope and he brought the message that God loved them. Even in his last moments, to a dying thief, he offered hope. Jesus actually came to turn the worldview upside down, to cause us to turn conventional thought on its head. He came to declare that God loves the poor and the blind and the sick and the oppressed. January is a time, I believe, when a lot of people get low, they get depressed, they feel maybe they're being a burden, and all sorts of daft thoughts enter into their head, and maybe they think they don't matter anymore. Well, as we leave that month of January behind, the message from the Apostle Paul is clear. Let us, you and I, be motivated by love. The message of the gospel is clear. The words of Jesus are clear. Again, you matter. For simply stated, there are no rejects in God's economy. I want you to hang on to that.